Talk about China so much, Andrew, and China hawks, and those that believe that everything China does has kind of a purpose. And you think about TikTok, and I just couldn't help thinking of the irony of this as China works to protect its youth from online addictions like gaming. And some people would say at the same time they're totally trying to destroy some of our young people. But shares of Chinese, it's nice that they're doing this for their kids. Shares of Chinese gaming companies plunged overnight. China surprised the markets with new rules aimed at curbing excessive gaming and spending on online games. They don't want that for the kids. Tencent plunged by 12% overnight in Hong Kong, wiping out $43 billion, $43.5 in market value. NetEase fell by nearly 25%, generated 80% of its third quarter revenue from online gaming. The draft rules would prohibit online gaming from companies for offering or condoning high-value transactions in these virtual games. So it would ban daily login rewards, which incentivize more play, and force companies now to place limits on how often users can reload money into their accounts. Gaming companies would also be forced to trigger pop-up warnings to users who display irrational consumption behavior. That's their words. President Xi Jinping has blamed addiction to online gaming for adverse effects on the psychology of the country's youth, and we certainly we were worried. But if you believe what they say about what TikTok and it's just interesting. With us, it's like they're trying to subvert. They're trying to subvert our youth, but their own.
Well, it's honestly, they've done this before. I don't know why this would come as such a huge surprise to the markets. Remember, was it a couple of years ago when they wanted to limit the amount of gaming time that any kids were allowed to do too, and all the stocks fell at that point too. But you're right. It's like, we don't want this for our kids. Let's just outsource this to the American kids.
And they're limiting the gaming for the one child you were allowed to have, which is also
it's loosened a little bit.
Hold on, but which side are you on?
One and a half now.
Hold on, but which side are you on? Are you on the? I mean, there's arguably the freedom side, which is what we're doing, but I'm not sure that's the perfect answer
when
either.
When it comes to kids,
or there's that side, which
stop the gaming. Yeah, it's
so look, it's one thing for adults, it's another thing for kids, and we have there was just a story this reminded me of this week where we were talking about some controls for social media for kids. I think I'm in favor of that too. It should be easier to control some of these things and make sure that the gamification of it all. I mean, this is the same thing that people complained about with Robinhood during the pandemic when people were at home losing and gambling and making it too fast and too easy.
But are we putting it on regulators to do this? Are we putting it on parents to do this? Are we putting it on children to do that? I mean, that's the fundamental question that's been so difficult, I think, for this whole country to grapple with.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is kids are smarter at the technology than we are. So
there's worse things there's worse things than a community of kids that are playing games and you meet other kids and you do better than
when you're meeting other people you think they're kids and it turns out they're
that's true. But I think that it can be an okay activity for kids and they can actually be into it. And I think it's
in moderation.
I think other things that maybe teenagers are not doing when they're playing games, and it's there can be worse things than
that's why sports are good for
some shrinkage at some retailer.